Matt and I first connected at a bar over a Cubs game. My friends had drifted off, so it was just us vibing. We exchanged Instagrams, and his profile, filled with typical 20-something adventures, seemed normal. The next day, a Saturday, I was at an outdoor bar for my friend Tyler's birthday. As we were singing, I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was Matt, who said this was his favorite Saturday spot. I introduced him to my friends, and he hung around for a while, blending in with the drunk crowd. The following weekend, Matt invited me golfing. I'm terrible but want to improve, so I went, just the two of us. After 9 holes and about 2 hours, we grabbed food, and I headed home. I saw Matt one more time after that before he invited me on a hiking trip to Arizona. The Grand Canyon was on my bucket list, so I immediately said yes after checking my work schedule. My friends Tyler and others declined, citing work and money, which was typical. Matt said he was going solo. I hadn't met any of his friends, but his Instagram implied popularity, so I didn't find it strange. We flew out on August 15th, returning to Chicago on the 18th. We landed at night. Matt rented a car, and we stopped for food and alcohol on the way to the Airbnb. It was late when we arrived, and after a couple of beers, I was ready for bed. That's when I realized there was only one bed. When I brought it up, Matt pointed to the couch I was sitting on and said it was a pullout, adding, "Relax. I'm not going to charge you for the Airbnb." A free stay in Arizona meant I couldn't complain. I pulled out the sofa bed, set up the sheets, and found it surprisingly comfortable. In the middle of the night, being a light sleeper, I woke to Matt walking through the living room to the kitchen for water. I rolled over and went back to sleep. The next morning, Matt woke me early. It was a beautiful sunny day, and we drove straight to the Grand Canyon. Its sheer size and numerous trail options amazed me. We hiked the Bright Angel Trail, and I quickly realized how out of shape I was, while Matt effortlessly laughed and urged me to keep up. We took many breaks for photos. After 2 to 3 hours of hiking, we got back to the car, and I desperately needed food. We stopped at a deli on the long drive back to Phoenix. We took a midday nap, then explored Phoenix, and in typical Matt fashion, ended up drinking at multiple bars. I barely knew him, but it was clear he enjoyed his alcohol. We got extremely drunk, and somehow, despite Matt matching me drink for drink, I felt even drunker. We left the rental on the street and Ubered back to the Airbnb. Time flew by, and I don't remember much besides Matt blasting music and me plugging my phone in by the couch before passing out. Hours later, I woke up with an exploding bladder and a parched mouth. As I got off the couch and headed to the bathroom, I heard a crack in the floor. I scanned the dark room, but saw nothing. While I was in the bathroom, I heard a door click shut. Matt's bedroom door, I assumed. When I finished, I tried his door, but it was locked. I knocked, but there was no answer. I went back to the couch and fell asleep easily. I woke up around 8 a.m. with a throbbing head. The first thing I noticed was my phone. I'd left it charging on the floor next to the couch, but now it was unplugged and sitting on the table next to the couch. I questioned why I would have done this, but ultimately blamed it on being super drunk. We didn't hike that day. I would have puked. We Ubered to the car and drove around, exploring neighborhoods, scenery, and the botanical gardens. I didn't want to drink, but Matt convinced me. And it was another night of getting incredibly drunk. Our flight was at 1 p.m. the next day, so we didn't have to worry about an early start. We got back to the Airbnb late again, between 1 and 2 a.m. Matt insisted I sleep in the bed that night, saying it was fair. I didn't argue, took my bag to his room, said goodnight, and shut the door. I didn't lock it, not that it mattered, as the doorknobs had those easily unlockable locks. I wish the story ended there. I woke up again that night, not long after falling asleep. I didn't know what woke me at first. I looked around for my phone. It was missing. The cord dangled from the outlet. How could this happen again? I looked on one side of the bed, then the other, and screamed when I saw Matt sprawled face down on the floor on that side of the bed. He looked up, confused, like he'd just woken up. I shouted, "What are you doing?" He acted like he didn't know how he got there, claiming he was so blacked out he walked in to go to bed, remembered I was there, and crashed on the floor. But it didn't make sense. He was on the side of the bed, furthest from the door. I accused him of taking my phone, and he played dumb, suggesting I check under the bed. He then got on his knees, looked, and instantly pulled it out, saying, "Bro, here it is." I looked at him, feeling like I was staring at a different person. Who was this guy? Did he really try to get into my phone twice? I told him I'd go back to the couch, but he insisted he would and then left the room. You bet I locked the door this time. If it weren't for the phone, I might have just dismissed it as drunken goofiness, but I was detecting something more sinister. He took my phone. I knew it. Being still a bit drunk, I fell back asleep easily. Again, I wish it ended there, but it didn't. I woke up one more time that night, quickly realizing why. At the foot of my bed, Matt was standing, a mere silhouette. For some reason, I didn't jump or scream. He sat down on the bed and started rubbing my foot. That's when I screamed at him to get out. He wouldn't move, so I had to physically push him off the bed and out the bedroom door. I started packing my clothes, toiletries, and everything else. He didn't say a word, sitting upright on the couch, watching me like a creepy NPC the entire time. It was the most unsettling part. I called an Uber to the airport. I wasn't staying another minute. He didn't try to stop me. I got to the airport just as the sun was rising. My mind raced and I couldn't sleep. I waited there until my flight, paying $35 to change my seat so I wouldn't be next to Matt. I looked out the window during boarding to avoid eye contact. I didn't tell any of my friends until later that day. I needed time to process everything. A couple of my friends said, "See, I told you he was weird," pointing out he was alone both times we ran into him. It dawned on me that he likely saw my Instagram story and came to the outdoor bar, which felt like actual stalker behavior. I blocked his number and Instagram. Before blocking him, I found an old Instagram post of his with friends. No one was tagged, but a comment from a guy who looked like he was in the picture caught my eye. Matt wasn't even following him. I DM'd the guy, asking if he was still friends with Matt. He responded within 10 minutes. "Nah, guy's a freak. Run away." From there, he told me about his own experiences and how other former friends had cut Matt off. He untagged himself from Matt's photo, but couldn't make him take it down. He wasn't surprised by what happened in Arizona, saying, "Guy should be in jail." It's crazy that I thought Matt was just a normal guy looking for a bro, but he turned out to be a potentially dangerous predator. I still just want to know what he was trying to access on my phone. This happened last summer, around mid-July. I was home from college for a few weeks, enjoying the break before my next semester. My name is Kyle, and I live in Maryland. I had been talking with my two closest friends, Jason and Marcus, about doing something together. Just the three of us, like we used to in high school. We all go to different colleges now, so this kind of time is rare. We ended up planning a weekend beach trip to Ocean City. Jason's family owns a small, unfancy 2-bedroom beach house a couple of blocks off the sand, which they don't use much. he got permission for us to stay there for a few days. It was perfect for what we needed. Time to relax, party a bit, and catch up. We drove down on a Friday afternoon. The weather was hot, upper 80s, with that heavy, humid air that sticks to your skin. The second we got into town, it smelled like sunscreen and salt water. We spent the day walking the boardwalk, messing around in arcades, and people watching. The beach was packed with tourists, kids running around with beach balls, families with umbrellas and coolers, and lifeguards constantly yelling at people to move out of restricted areas. Everything felt normal. It was just a fun summer day. Later, we went back to the house, grilled burgers, had a few drinks, and started playing drinking games. By midnight, we were drunk and bored, and Marcus suggested we go back to the beach. There's something appealing about being near the ocean at night. The beach is almost completely empty. The air cools down, and there's a peaceful quiet. We didn't bring much, just some hoodies, our phones, and a flashlight Jason grabbed from the kitchen. We didn't plan to swim, just hang out and maybe walk along the shore. We headed down a side street onto the wooden boardwalk, then took the steps down to the sand. As expected, it was basically deserted. The waves were steady, and the only light came from a few lamps on the boardwalk and the moon behind some clouds. There was barely enough visibility to make out where the water met the shore. We walked along the edge of the surf, occasionally letting the cold water hit our ankles. We joked around, talked about random stuff, and just killed time. After a while, we stopped near one of the lifeguard towers, those wooden ones they take down at night, and just laid in the sand, looking up at the sky. That's when Jason noticed something. He suddenly sat up and said, "Is that someone walking over there?" We all sat up and looked in the direction he was pointing. At first, I didn't see anything, just a dark blur near the shoreline. But then, yes, I saw it. A figure, just a silhouette at that point, walking slowly right along the edge of where the water touched the sand, probably 50 or 60 yards away. We figured it was just another person out late like us, maybe going for a walk. But then we noticed that their movement was off. They weren't strolling around like someone enjoying the beach. Their walk was stiff, slow, and almost mechanical. Their arms didn't swing naturally, and their posture was strange. Their head was tilted down, but not fully. It looked like they were staring at the sand or maybe scanning it. We all stopped talking and just quietly watched them. Something about it put me on edge. I remember whispering, "What the hell are they doing?" Marcus suggested they might be looking for something. Jason joked that it was probably some drunk tourist who dropped their keys. We kind of laughed it off and went back to messing around, but I kept glancing at the person. A few minutes passed, and I noticed they had stopped moving. They weren't walking anymore. They were standing completely still now, and they were definitely closer, maybe 30 yards away. That's when I started feeling uncomfortable. We tried not to stare or shine our light at them, but it was getting hard to ignore. There was just something off about the entire thing. Marcus finally said, "They've been standing there for like 5 minutes. Who just stands like that?" Then Jason said something that made my stomach drop. He said, "He's not just standing. He's looking at you, Keel." I didn't know if he was joking. I kind of laughed nervously and said, "Nah, he's looking at the sand." But Jason shook his head and said, "No, look closer. His head's tilted at you." That's when Jason pointed the flashlight at him. I didn't even want him to do that, honestly, but he clicked it on and aimed the beam. The light hit the figure for just a second before the battery started dying and it flickered out. But that second was enough. I saw him. He was almost greyish-white with no shirt. He was wearing wet jeans clearly from the ocean. His arms hung completely limp at his sides. His head was tilted at a weird angle, not broken, but unnatural. And his eyes were wide open, almost bulging. The second that beam of light hit him, he moved fast. Without any hesitation, he broke into a full sprint straight at us. I can't even describe how unnatural it looked. There was no build-up. He went from standing completely still to running at full speed, almost like he launched forward. All three of us screamed and bolted. We didn't even look back. We just ran. I could hear Marcus behind me yelling, "Go!" As our feet pounded into the sand, my lungs were burning. We ran all the way back to the steps leading up to the boardwalk and didn't stop until we got to the street. Only then did we turn around, but he wasn't there. The beach was empty. There were no footprints behind us, just the sound of waves. We stood there, frozen, trying to make sense of it. We didn't talk much on the walk back to the house. When we got inside, we locked all the doors and windows, pulled the blinds shut, and stayed up until the sun came up. None of us could sleep. I kept expecting to hear knocking or see that pale face outside the window, but thankfully, it never came. The next morning, we tried to laugh it off again, saying it was probably just some cracked-out homeless guy trying to scare people, but deep down, none of us believed that. The way he moved, the way he appeared out of nowhere, the lack of footprints, it made no sense. We stayed one more night, but we didn't leave the house. We left early the next morning. Over the next few weeks, we tried to move on, but then Jason texted me one night. He said he'd been having dreams, the same dream over and over. He'd wake up and see the guy standing in the corner of his room, soaking wet, head tilted, just staring at him. No movement, no talking, just standing. I told him that was messed up, but I didn't tell him that I was having the exact same dream. Everything was the same. The guy, the posture. Just standing in my room, not moving and not talking. Sometimes I wake up thinking I hear the sound of wet footsteps in my hallway, but when I check, no one's there. Then last week, almost a year later, I was scrolling through this local Facebook group that posted about stuff going on in Ocean City. Someone uploaded a photo they'd taken the night before from the beach. It was grainy and dark, but I recognized what they were talking about. They said, "Does anyone know who this creepy guy is that I saw standing by the water at like 1 a.m.? I clicked the photo. It was blurry, but I recognized him instantly. Same posture, same pale skin. He was just looking down at the water. The comments chilled me even more. There were dozens of people saying they'd seen him too. Some said he was there for hours. One person said they watched him walk into the water and never came back out. Another said they found wet footprints on their back porch 2 streets from the beach. No prints leading to or from them. I don't know what we saw that night, but I know this. I'll never go back to that beach at night again. I grew up in Massachusetts, and every summer since I could remember, I would spend the 3 months in a classic coastal New England town. You know the type if you've been in that area of the country. I had a big group of friends who always did the same thing, and we would get up to all kinds of shenanigans every day after our respective jobs. I was 19 years old when this happened, like most of my friends, and I had just gotten off a dock boy job. So, like any other night, I texted my friends what the plan was and picked up my friend, who I'll call Emerson, from his job to go get alcohol, as he was the one with a fake ID. We got the alcohol and went back to the small town where we lived. We decided to get on my family's boat, which I was able to take out on my own, to have some beers while we waited for everyone else to finish what they were doing. We drove around the little peninsula we were on to this place where a lot of people anchor and hang out. There were a couple of boats anchored already, and it was about 7 p.m., but it still wasn't unusual. We found a spot between the two boats, threw the anchor down, and just chilled and drank. We were having a nice time listening to the music from the boat to our left when the one to our right decided to leave. Then eventually, the other boat's music shut off. We thought they were going to leave as well. So Emerson and I, in our new drunken state, began to groan and yell to turn the music back on to keep the party going, and a bunch of other stupid stuff like that. But it didn't happen. We were sitting on the bow and started to drink again before Emerson said, "Dude, look." I turned around to look at the boat and saw 3 people standing on the edge, just looking at us. My first reaction was to laugh because I was drunk, and then I turned back around, but Emerson kept staring at them. Now, admittedly, I don't have a great sense of danger. I tend to be optimistic and light-hearted about most things, but Emerson was obviously uncomfortable. I told him not to worry about it, that they were probably just trying to get a better look or something. But he kept looking with an uncomfortable expression on his face, which I didn't get at the time. At this point, it's pretty dark. Nothing was illuminating the area but the lights from their boat, and therefore, you couldn't really see who it was, just the silhouettes of these people. After a couple of minutes of trying to get Emerson to snap out of it, I turned back around and saw they were in the same position, staring at us. I thought it was a joke, so I got the megaphone from the compartment over the steering wheel and said, "20 to watch, fellas," which pissed Emerson off because he sensed something wasn't right. I was putting it back when I heard one of them laugh audibly. A man, but something was off about it. It sounded almost sinister. It was slow and low and kind of raspy. It was at that point that I started to feel uncomfortable. Emerson got up and said, "Let's get the hell out of here, bro. This ain't right." But I responded that it was fine. Right after that, we heard 2 splashes in the water from their direction and saw that only one silhouette remained on the boat. That made Emerson immediately stop pulling the anchor up as I was laughing at the situation and at him, which, looking back now, was unbelievably stupid. He tried telling me to turn the engine on, while I was laughing my ass off, watching him pull the anchor up as I was trying to drink my beer. In fact, I was laughing so much that I didn't notice the sound of the 2 people swimming near our boat. Emerson paused and looked at me with the anchor in his hands, which made me pause too. We couldn't see into the water as it was dark, and the lights were off on their boat. I called out, "Hello," and got nothing. Even the sound of the splashing water stopped. Right after that, I simultaneously heard Emerson yell, "Oh!" and a sudden splash of water behind me before I turned and saw someone trying to climb onto the back of our boat. I freaked the hell out, and while turning the key, I saw a hand grab the railing on the side of our boat near Emerson, who was yelling and holding the anchor up, ready to fight. I finally turned the boat on and instinctively gunned it forward, smashing into the sandbar that was right in front of us. I put it in reverse and drove backwards as fast as possible until we were out of the little bay and back into more open water. I threw it back in neutral, and Emerson and I just looked at each other before he started giving me the "I told you so, and you're a dumbass." I fully agreed and said we should go back, at which he agreed. In hindsight, we should have hightailed it back to the boat docks near my house, but for some reason we decided to pick up everything that was thrown around during our escape. We didn't even finish before I noticed, in the direction we just came from, the lights of a boat approaching. And it was approaching fast. I said, "No way," and jumped back to the steering wheel and pushed full throttle. Our boat is old, so it doesn't go super fast, and even though I was full speed ahead, they were gaining on us. Emerson started to lose it, saying things like, "Who are these guys? What do they want? Why can't they just let us chill on the water?" So I told him to chill out and focused on going straight to the docks. After about 5 minutes, the docks were in sight, but the boat behind us was so close that we could see the bow itself going up and down with the waves. I honestly didn't know what to do. I banged a hard left and got as close to the shore as I could without beaching. And miraculously, the other boat peeled off in the other direction. We breathed a sigh of relief, but I still went full speed back to the docks. After docking and being relieved at the fact that there wasn't any damage to the boat, we met up with our friends and told them what had happened, also coming up with some theories like maybe they wanted to rob us or maybe they wanted to take the boat. We didn't recognize the boat, so they probably weren't from around here. I don't know. I don't like to think about what would have happened. I'm just glad we didn't find out. I do know that I'm thankful for Emerson being there. Without his skepticism, I think things definitely could have taken a turn for the worst.